So I'm John Kole.
And I'm Amy Kole.
And we are on Konect Life Stories.
Karibuni.
Karibuni. We got married in Wazingishu at a church called Osorongai AIC Church. That's 25 years ago. It's been a while. It's been a journey, but we thank God for everything.
So, with this journey, basically 25 years.
Yeah.
How has that been for you?
It's been really good.
Yeah.
Marriage is a good thing. We've been married for 25 years, as he said, and we've been married on the 28th of December 1997. And it's been good. The journey's been good. It has its own challenges as any other marriage. But we thank God we are still here. We are still together for the last 25 years.
Yes.
And John, now how's that been for you?
Yes, it's been really good. I'm pleased that I chose her as my spouse. When I got married to her 25 years ago, we started a journey, and it was a commitment, and I knew what I was getting into, and she knew too, I believe so. So we were getting married for life. And as Christians, because when we met, I was a Christian, she was a Christian as well. And it happened that we were in the same church, but I didn't know her until we met one day. And that is when the courtship started. It was actually like a God, she was like a godsend, because I'd been praying for a wife for some time. I had just finished the university, been posted to teach at a high school in Cabernet, which is Cabernet Boys High School, and I happened to be with a friend of mine, Albert. So we were sort of finishing the term, marking the assignment of the kids, and then we're entering the results into the system. And then one evening we became bored, and we said, why can't we just take a walk and maybe to the town center or to see a friend? So he suggested we go to visit this friend who was in a neighboring school, and we went down there, but we didn't find him. So as we were coming back to the house, on the way, just as we were passing a school where she was studying, she was just almost finishing Form 4, and they were having a sports thing somewhere, and I happened to see her. But we didn't talk, but we just saw her, and we went back. And then after a while, after she had finished, we met for the first time, and she told me that she lives not far from there. And we started talking. Eventually, friendship developed. We were meeting in church. She was in choir, and I got to know the parents. Visited the home several times. And and the relationship started building like that, and eventually we said, you know what, why don't we make this thing permanent? So we went through the traditional way of going to their family to ask for, my parents came with me, and we went to ask for her, and we had a little ceremony there. So, and then we had a second one, which was to just to get to know each other, the families to know each other. And then the third one was the wedding, which we did in church. So there were 3 ceremonies that we had to go through before the whole thing became real. The marriage became real. So so that's a short story, but it's there are so many other things that happen in between, and all that. But it's it was a good thing that we decided to have this for life.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. So I want you to before we go to the challenges, to speak about the right reasons to get married, because that's some people make the mistakes when they just jump straight into marriage without even. So what are some of the right reasons to get into a marriage, or what can you now pinpoint and say that was a good reason why you actually should get married, because you are there?
Yeah. So for me, I'll say when I finished high school, as you said before, we got to know each other through church and all that. And I was young when we got married. But when I saw him, I said he was the right man for me. And we've been through this journey together, and he's right man for me, right husband for me, what I could say.
Amazing.
And you're the right wife for me for 25 years.
Yeah. So, John, what can you say are some of the right reasons to get into? Like you saw her and you're like, this is it.
Yeah.
What are some of those right reasons you should actually get into a marriage?
So as I was saying before, when we go to know each other, during courtship, you go to learn each other's personalities, character, and what they like and they don't like and stuff like that. So that is when you should be measuring to see, is this the right person for me or not? And for the first 1 year, that is when some people take 2 years, 3 years, but we took almost 1 year ourselves. And to study the other person, to understand the other person, because you don't want to rush into a marriage and then eventually regret it. Did I marry the right person? So I was ticking the boxes slowly, and I believe she was ticking the boxes as well when we were in a courtship.
Yeah.
So she's a very kind person, family oriented. She loves God, and she's someone who I like being with her all the time. She's a friend. I realized she was, apart from being my wife, she's also a friend to me. So I saw that friendship developing slowly. We could do things together. We were not bored being together. We were missing each other all the time. And I know some people would say that could be infatuation at the beginning, but I think when you see something that is repeatedly going on and on for some time, you realize, oh, there's some spark here. It's not actually infatuation. It is love. I love this person. So when you do things together, so we are doing things together, traveling. Going for walks. Sometimes after school, she would tell me, let's go for walks. We go for walks. We would go in after church. We would go for maybe lunch. And we did stuff together, and that started building the bond until I saw that, she's the right person for me. So what I want to say is, knowing the person that you want to marry, you have to understand that person, know that person, what they believe in, their character, what they like, so that you see the compatibility. You can see that this, although they will not be 100% the same, there are certain things you will work on as you get married to adjust to live together. There are certain things, because you've grown up in a different home, she's grown up in a different home, different values and all that. So when you meet, you're meeting where you're a bit far from each other, but you start adjusting, slowly by slowly, until you realize that you can be living together. You can actually live together. So that's the thing.
Oh, amazing. So, Emma.
Yes.
Some challenges along the way. You get married to this handsome man, and now you realize, wow, he's not maybe. Maybe he leaves his shoe there. He does. So what were some of the challenges you faced maybe at the beginning when you got married?
First challenge for me is leaving my parents, first of all. Being married to a new family was a bit challenging for me, but you fit in. This is the person I love, we are together forever, Challenges, I could say, is mostly back home. We were back home. I had to go to college. When we got married, we had our first child, and then I had to go to college. So those were a bit challenges because I had to look after the kid. Yeah. So I had to go to college. Let's say every month or every week I come to see them because Shirley was really young. Yeah. Those are the challenges that we faced. And also, before I got a job, I used to stay home and I used to go to another town to teach. So I was left alone with maybe someone to help us with the kids and all that. That was a bit challenging, a little bit, but all in all, we worked together to come up with a certain goal, like we need to do this together, move closer to home so that it can be coming from home and going to work. Yes, that's the challenge, I can say.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
So just to add something on what she said, when we got married, I had a job, and she didn't have she had just finished school. And one thing that her parent asked me was, if you get married now, I want to take her to college and then you get married after. And I said, no, I can't wait. I can't wait because I don't know tomorrow, So what I did, and it said, so what are we going to do? I said, look, if she goes to college, I'll take all the responsibilities. So and then pay fees, everything for her, all the things, so that because I wanted to make her realize that it's not that I want her to succeed too. I want her to have her goals and succeed in her goals, and that's something in marriage that married people should also know, to improve each other's lives, goals, what do you want to do, and then support each other. Because sometimes it can become a problem for some people when they think, oh, I'm marrying somebody and then I have to put them to school and all that kind of, I'm using money. It's if you love that person, that is not a problem. So when she went to college, I had to also look after the kid. And, that was a big challenge for me as well, because we was young, we were newly married, but I had my in-laws who supported me as well. My mother-in-law would come sometimes. I'll drop the kid there and then go to school and come back, pick the kid and all that kind of thing. So it was a commitment. I realized now we are one, and we are supporting each other. And I would visit her as well every now and then, and she would come home as well. So those are some of the challenges at the beginning, because you go to marry somebody and within a short time they are gone, and you're trying to build each other's, understand each other, build each other's, knowledge about each other, to be able to know the other person and all that. But we had to do it because she needed to improve herself as well. So, and then the other challenge that you said, we were at, I was teaching far away, and then I would come on weekends and all that. It was a hard one because, going away, leaving them alone and they're still young, it was a challenge. But she took it, positively. And I made sure that they were okay. I employed some
house girls.
Yeah, I think two house helps. They call them managers nowadays.
Yes.
So house managers.
Yes, yes.
To help support her and all that. I didn't want her to suffer and that kind of thing, with all the work that she needed to do. So those are some of the challenges.
Yeah, for me, I would say prayer was the key for me. I pray all the time. We talk on the phone too. We had mobile phones. We talk. Sometimes we pray together on the phone, and always we usually communicate every day. Every day communicating, how is he? How am I with the kids at home? And all the time. He used to come every weekend anyway. Yeah. It wasn't that he's going for a long time. So I would say just building our family in prayers. That's which kept us really strong. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So what challenges are there in marriage? Every marriage has some challenges, and some are big, some are small. But the most important thing is that challenges actually help marriages grow stronger. They enhance, marriages, because if you solve one problem, you address one problem, you move to the next one, and because they will always be there. So we had to think, sometimes we would sit down and with my wife and talk about this and say, what's the best way forward? And my wife would say, don't worry, I'll be missing you, but go to school. I know you'll come back on weekend and all that. You ring me when you reach there and all that. So we worked around the issue to try and resolve it, because we didn't want to make it look like, oh, so what are you going to do about it? We just run away from it? No. We face it. So we faced it, and we knew that there would be more challenges coming ahead. Those was just the beginning. And that is what helped us, talking about the issues, resolving the issues, without sweeping it under the carpet, and say, okay, that will solve themselves or something, or bringing other people in. Because sometimes we bring other people in, it creates problems because they might give you a bad advice and all that. If you can solve your issues, solve it yourself. If you can't, maybe seek advice from people you trust that can give you better advice on what to do. Yeah.
That's a very sound advice. Yeah. So now we're going to transition to Australia. So maybe you can give us a bit of a background where you came to Australia and stuff like that. And then now we're going to look at Australia in a marriage context. Not any other thing, marriage context. So how did it happen that you're coming to Australia, and how did that transition now happen to Australia?
So transitioning to come to Australia, what happened is that I had as I said before, we always talked about our goals, what we want to do. Some goals were short term, others were long term. So things like after she had finished college, and I said, okay, I think I need to advance my education as well. And she said, okay, I'll support you all through. And we didn't know that we would come to Australia together, because when I was planning to come to Australia, I didn't have enough information about Australia and the laws, and do they allow families to come here. So my intention was, if I come to study 2 years and I go back. But then when I talked to one of the agents, she told me, you can go with your family if you want. And I said, oh, that's great. And I said, how do I go about this? And she said, what you need to do is, if you want to go with the children, you have to pay fees for them for schools in Australia, if they are older enough to go to primary school. But with your wife, you can just pack your things and go with her. Just get a visa for her and you go. I said, wow, that sounds good. Because I didn't want to leave her. Although I wanted to come and study, there's always this thing in me that I would miss her. And although she was saying, it's okay, darling, it's good for us, for better tomorrow. But still, inside her heart, I know that she was saying, wow, 2 years. Wow, that is going to be too long. And I was, even myself as well, I knew it was going to be a struggle. So when this happened, we went back and talked about what we do. Do we go together plus the kids? We realized it was going to be expensive. So what we did, we organized for visas for the two of us, and we came to Australia. We left the kids. And when we arrived here, there was culture shock. Big one for us as a family. So just as an example, we went to one church one time when we were still new here. And as we entered in the church, and we was greeting people, and then people were sort of hugging my wife and kissing this side like that. And I said, wow, this is strange. How can you do that to somebody's wife? So it was a big shock for me. But I got to know they meant well. They did, it's a cultural shift. So I had to do that cultural shift, start slowly learning how to adapt to this Western lifestyle. And then again, work. She was working, she was the first to get a job. Yeah. And I didn't get a job for some time, because I had this idea that I was coming to get, I would get teaching job here. So I applied like 300 jobs and got regrets. You don't have enough experience here, blah, blah, and so many other things. So I kept on trying, but she was quick. She said, I need to get something so that we can support each other and also support the kids at home. So when she got a job, she would be going to work, and and sometimes I would miss her, and she would travel far. And those days we were using Mailway. There was no, So she was really struggling. Sometimes she would call me and say, I don't know where I'm going, or it's, I'm getting lost and the time is going, I'm supposed to be at work. So because it was agency, she started with agency. Anyway, she really helped me a lot in terms of financial support for school fees, and also supporting before I got into the job, which was a great thing, darling. And I love you for that. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, that was the first challenge. Culture shock was really a big issue, which really affected us as well in terms of trying to adjust to this life here in Australia as a family. Yeah.
And what were some of the culture shocks? Arriving, and what were some of your culture shocks?
Oh my gosh. For me, I would say, first of all, arriving to the airport, the first thing. We arrived there, and then one of the person who was working at the airport stopped us and said, oh, you go on the other side first, and then I think they were checking about the papers or something. And I was like, oh, so I have to go back home or something like that. So those are the things I was like, what's going on in the airport? And then the other thing would say, culture shock would be maybe food. Yeah, what we have in Africa is different from here. Yeah, we used to eating differently, and then coming here is different. Also, even the fitting in the language of, there are some words you can hear, some words you can hear, Those are the things I could say was a bit challenging for me. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yes.
And now this is now arriving, right? You've left
Yeah, this arriving. Yes.
Left your kids at home.
Yep.
And now you are a couple, and this is a new country. So as a married couple, we'll talk about how you're feeling about the kids and everything. But what are some of the things you've started seeing differently, maybe from what you come in a context of a marriage from Africa, and now you're here? So what are some of those things you now started seeing? Okay, this is a bit different. Or some of the challenges you met as a couple when you knew your life in this country.
So if I say when we arrived here. You don't have the support network that we had family, friends, and all that. You are alone. You are just here, me and my wife, and we had to start building those relationships with people. And we realized in Australia, it's not. It's a culture where people are so busy, and they don't have time for each other sometimes. So that connecting with them, connecting with people was an issue, and having those cultural barriers as well. Because we are new here, it's a different culture. And then the other thing that we also realized that was a challenge, it was financial as well, because we were running up and down, paying fees was very expensive. So when it comes to other things outside the university, here you are not married. You are about, how many years were we by then?
We came 2005.
Yeah, so I think we had about maybe 10 years or 9 years marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe around that.
About that time.
Yeah, so you are newly married. There are also challenges for people who are newly married. You are here in a new country that has, the culture here is not very strong on marriage. We know that there's a lot of divorce in this country, and there are certain factors that lead to that. And we realized that quickly, and we said we need to be very careful. We talk about things. She goes to work. She says, "Oh, I had these issues at work." Da, da, da. She comes. We discuss. We debrief. I go to school. I said, So we talk about these things. If there's anything that we feel it might become an issue, we talk about how to avoid it, because there are so many, things that can happen in a country like this that is so promiscuous, around allowing people to anything goes, and that's why marriages easily fail. So we said we have to stick in our Christian values. We have to go to church every day, every Sunday, and go to the other one on Wednesday.
Study group.
Yeah, yes. Group. So we used to go to that, and that build us strong, because we kept on our Christian faith. But if we came and backed off and said, okay, now these people there are not so many people who are Christians in this country, so we leave it and we start doing our own thing, that can become an issue, and it can lead into other things that can make a marriage not work.
And to add on what he just said too, when we came to Australia, we stayed in a guest house for 6 months, and we didn't know any Kenyan, we didn't know anyone. So that's the challenge, that even getting a job was a bit challenging, because we didn't know how to go about to get into a course, to get into any job that we need to go in. But we thank God, after that 6 months, when we went to the university, we get to know Kenyans, and that's the way they told us about going to a college or course so that we get a job. Yes, that was a bit challenging for us. Yeah.
Amazing. So what were some of those things that worked for you and you think can work for other couples out there?
I think the first thing, I'll say a few, and then my wife will say a few too. When you keep the love going, because love is what will keep the union together. It's really, really something that, when we got married, we say we have to keep this burning, this love burning and going on. And we had to really look for ways of keeping it going. So some of the things that we did were we'd go for cinema sometimes, isn't it? We'd go for cinema together. We do some walks, in the evening as we chat, talk together as we walking. And what did we else?
We like gardening too.
Yeah,
sometimes.
We love gardening as well.
Yeah.
So gardening, doing stuff together, being together and doing things that, sometimes even some things that you may find, because we are two individuals with different, interests and all that sometimes. So what I would advise people is, when I know my wife likes certain things, I start developing interest in those things, and even do things together with her that make her happy. When even some things that I do that she may not be interested in, she just joins me to help, to be with me. So doing things together, can also help. And then the other one you said about being Christians, continuing with your faith, because some people come here and because this country is not a country that lots of people are Christians, a small number of people are Christians. So sometimes some people get the cozy and say, oh, there's no need to go to church. There's no, because we draw values that will keep us strong from the Word of God, from church, interacting with other Christians, interacting with families that are Christians, so that we motivate each other, in this journey, and we keep the values, the Christian values, because they can easily go out of the window if you're not careful. The other thing, we communicate a lot, and verbal communication, non-verbal, you have to understand your spouse. Because sometimes, when we're still newly married, sometimes my wife would just keep quiet and I wonder what's really happening here. What is it? So I would start maybe I've done something wrong or something. And sometimes it could be just she wants to be quiet. She wants to have her own time. Sometimes it could be there's something that she's not happy about. So you need to, when I ask her what it is, say, oh, don't worry, darling, it's just something that happened. And then we say, can we talk about it? Or do you want us to talk about it? So those keep the communication going. It's really very important. And understanding the other person. When they're upset, how do they behave? When they're happy, how do they behave? So that you always, in tune with what is happening. So that's one thing that I always say. Yeah. Commitment, if you're committed in marriage, because I read somewhere that research shows that 40 to 50% of first marriages fail in this country, in this Western country, like Australia or America, UK. So, and then the second marriage, if you go to the second marriage, 60 to 70% fail. And then in third marriage, about 85, 90%. It's no chance in third marriage. There's no chance of surviving in the third marriage. So what that actually tells us is that there's a problem in terms of families being together or having that commitment for life. So the mantra in most of the marriages in Western countries, like, let's try this. If it doesn't work, I chicken out and go, start my own, another relationship. So it's not for keep. And challenges are there, and challenges build us. And if you have that thing of it's like climbing a hill, If you finish one hill and there's another hill, you finish that hill, there's another hill. And the skills that you learn in the first hill as you climb are the skills you're likely to use in the second one, in the third one. So if you are able to persevere, to persist, resolving issues, as you go, it becomes better. Like now, 25 years, I feel it's more lighter now than when we were still newly married, because there were so many things happening and all that, and we were still young and, But now, if you persist 25, 30, 40, 50 years of marriage, it is joyful. And God made marriage, just as I was reading somewhere, somebody said, it's a little taste of heaven on earth. That's marriage. That's what God intended. But because of the fall of man, we have all these challenges because, the Satan now controls almost everything. And that's why being believers and continuing with your faith is really important, because it puts you in line. Sometimes you want to go like on once, aside, puts you online, because the values, those ones, like Christian values, are strong and and stuff like that. Because the cultural values cannot work sometimes, especially here. If you say, I'm a cultural man, I believe in my culture, and this is going to help my marriage, it might not work here. It's going to go the other way. Because in our marriage, in our traditional marriage, what does it say? You have different roles. Your wife is in the kitchen, and you're outside there doing other stuff, working and stuff. Here, she goes to work, for example, our case, and I cook, I clean, everything, I do everything. She's at home, she does it herself as well. So I had to learn quickly to change, because when we were back home, darling, I didn't do much of the cooking and all that. You did most of them, but that's our culture. If we came with that attitude here, that's it. The forgiveness is another thing, very, very strong thing that I want to recommend to young people who are getting married. If you can't forgive your spouse, there's a problem there. Because men, sometimes we feel like, can I really go that low to say, sorry, darling, or something like that? And so it's really, really important to bring yourself to that level. Forgiveness. Ask for forgiveness, say you're sorry, and the other person, and move on with, if once you have forgiven the other person, don't keep the scorecard of wrongs. A scorecard where you say, okay, you did this to me. Okay, you did this to me last year. You did this this year as well. You did this. So you give a scorecard. That marriage is going the wrong direction. Once you are forgiven, and that's it.
Yeah, to add one thing too is having your me time.
Yeah.
You have your me time to also reflect.
Yeah.
You also reflect things in marriage, in your life. What is your goals? What do you want to do? So sometimes I can sit in there. He sits here. He likes reading books, or I go there, I watch
Newspaper.
Netflix or something. Or sometimes you just wanted to listen to music, or you want to do something just for you. Yeah, that's the thing. Maybe I can add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So she likes a lot of When I married her, I realized that she's a more visual person. She's in what we call in psychology, personality. She's actually a melancholic person, phlegmatic. So she's more quieter. She's a quiet person. She's very analytical. If you tell her something, she wants to analyze things. So and that's her character. And she's somebody who doesn't want to be hurt. You don't. If you hurt her, she takes time to really, when you hurt her, she wants to know why. Why you did that. So she's somebody who keeps what we call internal emotion. So that's why I had to understand her. You resolve issues and she forgets. Once it's done, it's done. But she doesn't want something that you do to her and then you don't address it and you don't see that as a problem. She will be asking you again, about it. So, but for myself, a phlegmatic person, I'm always a very calm person. I'm somebody who takes things easy, stuff like. And that was a struggle when we were young, actually, newly married. We were really, that kind of person. Oh, leave that one. It will solve it. It will be okay. I said, no. We have to address this thing.
So now you're leading to my next question.
Yep.
You guys have conflict, and how do you solve conflict? Because that's the biggest and the best lesson you can teach people. Because you've kept it going for 25 years, and then after that, we're gonna go to how you keep it going, how you keep it fresh. But before that, do you guys have conflict? And then answer, how do you resolve conflict?
Yeah.
Darling, you want to go?
In every marriage, there's conflict. We can say that. But for us, we don't let the sun go down before we finish or we address it. Yeah, we talk about it. We communicate a lot. We talk about it if there's something which maybe he told me that I didn't like, or I told him something he didn't like. So we sit down and we talk about it, and we pray together, and that thing is gone. Yes.
Yes, so that's we have every marriage has conflict. There's no, sometimes people when they see couples that have been together for long, and they seem to love each other and all that, and some people start thinking, oh, it seems like these people have no issues. It seems like they start comparing themselves. Every marriage has issues, but the only difference is, do you address those issues or you just sweep them under the carpet? And say, oh, it will just solve itself. It will not, because it will come back again. And to say, ladies are usually very emotional human beings. Us, we tend to be, practical guys. We want to see things happening. We plan things and all that kind. They are very emotional. So sometimes you know some things and you think, oh, you will just forget about it. You just go. And she will bring it back and just ask you one day, what was that about again? Why did you do that? Or what? So you really need to be attuned to that understanding that we generally, ladies or female are emotional, and it's their nature. They cannot change it, and you need to to be able to understand that when there's an issue, try and resolve it in a very amicable way. Sometimes even buy a flower. Buy flowers there, and then bring flowers and give it to her, and she will, she'll be happy, and things will work out well. Or if she likes a certain dress, and some, like my wife, when you go to shopping center, sometimes she'll say, I like that dress, but it's too expensive. I say, okay, is that one? Can you fit yourself in? Can you try and see if you can fit you? And she will try, but I don't have money. But then she will leave it. Then one day I just go and buy and wrap it and bring it and say, this is the one, and she would be over the moon. That's the emotional part of it that we need to address as men with our spouses. Little things. So, I even remember when I go, to buy some stuff sometimes, and I used to bring you, remember the little thing? What was it?
A lolly.
A lolly. Even lolly. You can imagine just a lolly. A lolly will do the trick. So, guys, I tell people, young people newly married, learn to appreciate your spouses. It doesn't have to be a very expensive thing, you know, but they do appreciate. So that's another thing that we've been doing. Yeah, so those are some of the things that help us, you know, to overcome some issues. But challenges are there, and challenges in marriages differ from family to family, you know, depending on the issues at hand. Sometimes could be money. Money can become a big issue, financial stuff, and we realized that from, you know, when I was working, I had only one salary back home. And we had to sit down and we just said, this is all the money that we have. If we are not going to budget properly, then we'll have issues. We'll probably have little kids and stuff like that. And we had also our parents also to support sometimes, buy them something. So we sat down and say, you know, we want to budget. And that helped us. When we came to Australia, we continued with the same thing. And even we made it even much better because now we have...
Two income.
Yeah, two income. And we have to say, we have a book that we have all the bills written down, all the bills, and once we pay, we just take all the ones that we paid, and whatever little money that remains, you know, I say, darling, look, I see that you have not made, you know, you have not made your hair, your nails. Do you want to go and do that? She said, oh, I'll appreciate that, and you know, she would call that. Sometimes while she goes shopping and she brings me a shirt or a book or anything, you know, and appreciate. That is the spicing part of it to continue the love, to continue growing and becoming stronger. Otherwise, if you leave it flat and you're just there, you eventually find that you become like neighbors, you know, you have nothing going.
How do you spice up your marriage, Emma?
Me, I know he likes books.
Yeah.
So when I go out to the shops or doing shopping, and there's these specific books like research books or something like that he likes, I'll buy.
What about a newspaper?
Yeah, newspaper is every Saturday I buy him a newspaper, every Saturday, because that's the thing he likes. Even back home he used to read newspapers. So here in Australia, every Saturday I know I'll have to buy the Age for him. Small things like what? Like buying clothes for him too sometimes, yes. What else? Yeah.
That's it. John, the romantic part.
Yes, the romantic part.
How do you spice up that? Because sometimes, you know, we let it go flat.
Yeah,
you said
yeah.
about buying flowers, but what other things do you do to spice up your marriage?
Yeah. So one other thing that we do, tell you, we do stuff, man. We do. Our kids, if they were there, they'll be laughing. So we like dancing. And we have certain music, you know, the 90s, you know, music like that. So we put the music on, we push the chairs in the evening, you know, and we dance until we sweat. You know, and that also helps because in a way, you know, it makes you happy, brings you that happiness, you know, because that's one thing you like. And then one other thing that I do, you know, I'm always, you know, trying things. You know, there was a time I said, okay, I want to do something that will make her happy. And that was every time she gets up in the morning, she wants to go to work, I have to hug her and kiss her because she goes to work. She comes back, if I'm around, I open the door and hug her and kiss her. It went on for a long time. And there was a time she asked me, what is this all about? You know, and I said, that is how we've got to spice up our and I said, do you like it? And he said, oh, I love it. It's good. So trying things, you know, so like that one, it's really something that we do. We go for walks as well together, and we chat as we go for walks a lot, and we do gardening. She likes gardening. I wasn't very keen, but I have been made to do it because I want to make her happy. So I do stuff to make her happy so that it also brings us together as well. So you can see little garden we have here, and the house we had before we were doing a bit of garden, flowers, planting vegetables and all that kind. And then we go out once in a while to Melbourne. We just book a hotel in Melbourne City, and we just go on weekend and we sleep there. So we walk around, we buy stuff, we check things, and we, you know, just to be out of this environment, you know, a different environment. Anything else we do, darling? If I forgot anything else?
Sometimes we watch Netflix.
Yes, Netflix. We watch if there's something I see, you know, and I say, oh, this is really good, let's watch. So watch Netflix together. Cinema.
Yes.
That is something that we also go once in a while. When we say, okay, let's go, there's a movie, blah, blah, let's go and have a look at this movie. It's nice. So we go have a night, like, you know, we can watch a movie, we come back home. Yeah.
Amazing. And before we go to raising up kids, as we're going to wind up because raising up kids in a foreign country is a bit challenging for a few people. But having, you know, to work now, and she didn't used to work before.
Yeah.
How do you have that
Work-life
balance?
Yep.
Because that's where other couple actually lose it. Because someone is working so much, they don't see each other, and the
Yep.
other one. So how do you make that work?
Yeah,
You wanna go first?
yeah. So for us, we make sure when we are working, we have maybe 2 days together. Like the weekends, we make sure we are together. We work maybe Monday to Friday, or half day, so that we have time together. We can go for a drive, or the movies we usually go. Those are the time we create our time together. Yeah.
Yes, so we create time, we try to balance, and look, it's a very challenging thing in a Western country because we have so many bills. But I usually, you know, when we talk with my wife, we just say we have to prioritize ourselves. If you don't prioritize your relationship, you know, there are so many other competing factors, and one of them is, you know, money. You want to work, you want to have this, you want to buy that, and that's where a lot of us, as you say, most of the migrants here struggle with, because they come here, there are lots of opportunities, and everybody want to make a dollar, they're working so hard, want to have this, until they forget what is the core focus for the two of them, which is actually maintaining that marriage. You know, because if you have money to maintain a marriage, there are certain good things that come to you. You know, there's certain things that you benefit out of it. You know, one is you have somebody you can connect with. It gives you that. You know, you're happy being at home. I find when I'm at work and I check time and I feel like I want to go home, I have that, I want to go home and meet my wife and be with her and have a chat with her. Sometimes I ring her during lunch hour. We actually make sure that we ring each other. Break time, lunch hour, we ring each other. And that helps as well. Yes, how is it going with your work? How is it going with yours? I say, oh, it's how it's going, you know, And so keeping that connection so that you don't really lose each other for so long. Because some people go to work. I have even my friends at work. You rarely hear them ring and they're ringing their spouse. For me, I just ring and we laugh, we talk. And some guy asked me one day, who is this you're talking to every day? And I said, this is my wife. I said, wow, how long have you guys been married? I said, oh, for a long time. Wow, and you still do this? So it's a strange thing. But if you want something if you want something to persist, to go on for long, you have to do it. It's work. Actually, marriage is work. You have to work. You have to work. You have to make it work by doing stuff continuously. Some things can be a bit something that you have never done before, and you feel, you know, this is not. But for the sake of your marriage, do it. Do it. You know, oh, it's break time. I have to ring my wife. Or instead of saying it's break time, I have to ring my friend. It's good to ring friends, but don't forget your wife. The priority is number one, and then the friends number two. What's another thing that we to balance? So we take off days as well to do stuff like at work. We make sure like soon we will be going somewhere. So so I ask her, you know, which the best appropriate time we can take up some holiday, go somewhere. And we organize at work. I get some leave and she gets some leave. And we go together, you know. It's even without children, you know, because it's better when you are two of you, but the same children, you know, you go there and you're busy, you know, it's like routine, you know. But when you are together, you know, that's when you talk about, you know, stuff, you laugh, you know, kiss each other, you know, spice things up, you know. You rekindle things to continue going nicely. So otherwise, if it's work, things might not work or eventually work properly for your marriage if that's what you, yeah.
Amazing. So raising up kids, you started having kids back in
Kenya. Yes.
That was a bit easy because you know there was house
Yes.
managers. Now coming to Australia, how did you do that? How do you raise kids up in Australia? And what are some of the lessons you can actually teach people? Because some people are struggling out there, maybe you know, balancing raising kids, work, and everything else, and life is happening. How did you guys do it?
So for us, we left our kids for 4 years, as I said, from 2005 to 2009. We left them because we couldn't bring them over because of finances and all that.
Yeah.
And then when we went back, we got them and we brought them here. So we talked to each other saying which schools is better for them to go. So we came here, we looked for a Christian school because we wanted to instill Christian values still for our kids transitioning from back home coming here. So we looked for a Christian school here. We enrolled them, and we keep on keeping the Christian values, teaching them, taking them to youth group, in church, and also just at home, even having Bible study at home and all that. That's the thing we really, which help us when we brought our kids over. Yeah.
So yeah, that's just to add on what he said. You know, I realized, because I'm a teacher myself by profession. So when I came here and I was teaching in public schools, that's I realized that there was not much support for kids, especially black kids or African kids, because of there's a bit of racism, and stuff like that at school, and teachers are overworked, and but once I went to private school to teach, I realized there's a bit of support there. They're conscious about what's happening, the dynamics with the kids and the teachers and all that, and they have Christian values. So we decided, we sat down with my wife and said, are we going to manage? Because private schools are expensive, public schools are free. So we decided and said, we better spend money for the betterment of our kids, good environment where they study, the Christian values, and get good education. So that's what we did. So it was a bit expensive, but we sacrificed. We did sacrifice. And another thing that I might also say is about picking kids, taking them to school, picking them from school can be a hassle when both of you are working. And what we did was we adjusted our time. So I would start a bit, in the morning I would take them to school, then my wife would pick them up. And sometimes my workplace would be very generous. They would allow me to go, pick them up, take them home, and go back to work. And that helped a lot. So that helped a lot. So, having those roles, and we didn't talk about roles, another issue is roles as well for families when you come over here. If you are able to balance your roles, so that it's no longer now the male roles and female roles. It's all about the roles that are there. Can we sit down and share, equitably, so that we are sort of, one person is not feeling overloaded. So we sit, and sometimes you say, oh, I'm tired, or something like that. Oh, don't worry, darling, I'll just do it, and and that helps, because you're making sure that the other person is also, you have the, you're appreciating the other person and all that kind of thing. So the other issue is raising teenagers is a big issue here in Australia. Oh my, it's a big issue, because once they turn teenagers, they start questioning you. When my kids started questioning me, I really used to feel very bad. And my wife said, don't worry, darling, that's how it's happening everywhere with the kids who are, teenagers. I say, you tell them something, I say, why? Why can't you do it yourself? Something like that. I say, what really happened? What really changed with my kids? All of a sudden it's like that, And it is something that they don't, it's developmental stage that they don't even understand what is happening. But, we started slowly by slowly, made sure that they were going to church. We made sure that they're actually getting involved in the youth group.
Yes.
Even becoming leaders. My daughter was a leader in youth group. My son became a leader in youth group as well. And I would, as another thing, I would pick them at 10 at night, because they're having their youth group activities at night. So I would sacrifice, go pick them, or my wife would go and pick them. In the evening, I would take them there. So at least that also kept them grounded, being involved in church activities and all that, helped them as well. And then we were very careful on the friends that they had. That's another thing as well, because if they get the wrong friends, that's it. They pull them away and instill some other negative, values into their lives. So we wanted to know the families of the kids that are friends to our children. So to see who they are, and we encourage them to have friends from church that we are going, and all that. So those are some of the challenges that we face, and every family will face. But it's always good to understand every kid. Our daughter was different, with our son. They have different personalities, and you got to understand. One would like some things, another one, like my son would like sports, and I had to take him to sports every, like, I don't know, 3 days a week. You know, after school, I pick him up from school, take him for sports, bring him back. You know, and that going up and down can be a frustrating thing for parents. They can feel it's too much. They are working. They are taking them to this, but you have to understand that you are raising a generation, next generation, and you go to sacrifice. You go to, you know, and because we were not working that much because we wanted to support them. We reduce the hours and all that kind of thing. That means the money will go down a little bit. You got to explain to children as well what's happening, and you got to cut down on your expenditures and the things you are doing.
Yes.
Very important as well.
Amazing. So we just gonna now take final remarks.
I could say marriage can work. It has worked for us for the last 25 years. It can work for anyone who can really put effort to work towards their marriages. And if it can work, we still have professional people that can also help. For us, we still have our best man and best lady from back home when we were getting married, and we still connect with them. We have something, we still talk, and we say, oh, they said, oh, okay, you go this way. We still have our referent who was taking our wedding day. We still talk to him. And also we have friends here, church members and our pastors who can still give us advice in our marriages. And also we go to conference.
Yeah. Marriage conference.
Marriage conferences, women only, or for my husband, for men. And we also have these things that we say, we can build in our marriage, the teaching. And we also have our books that we always refer and also get some ideas from there to build our marriage. So marriage can work. It's just putting it to hard work so that it can work.
Yeah.
And also stand with prayers and also make God to be the leader in our homes, and it will work. Yes.
Yep. Thank you, darling. That's really powerful. It's very powerful. You know, making God the center of your family, because we pray in our family every day in the night before we go to bed, and we've instilled that in our children as well. So we do it in turns. Our children, pray as well. So we do in dance, and in the morning sometimes it's a bit difficult because everyone is getting up and different time going to work. So we encourage each one of us to pray on their own. So prayer is also very good and powerful as well. So what I wanted to also say, because this country that we have moved in is a very nice country. We have a lot of opportunities and so many things happening that we feel are supporting us as migrants. But on the other side of the marriage, there's a weakness there, a big one, in the sense that there's not enough support. If you look at it actually, because if you look at it, it looks like divorce is being encouraged or separation is being encouraged. If you look at it, it might not be true it's being encouraged, but there are laws that are really quick to act and say, okay, if this thing is not working, separate. Everybody can have their own life and something like that, which I understand. Sometimes some people are violent and they can cause other issues. But I think that effort of being, that can be put in to support families to stay together is not there. So there's not enough support. So when migrants come here, like us, we have families and we want to thrive, because back home we've seen our parents, they were married for years and years, and we want to replicate that into our marriages. But we find challenges, a lot of that, but we don't have enough support as well. So what I would advise young people is, once they step here in Australia, the first thing they have to know is, if they are married, they need to really work on their marriage. As my wife has said, marriage requires work. It's not going to happen. You can't sit down and say, I saw somebody saying something and say, marriage is like you having a car. If you have a car, and every year you take it for servicing and all that, and if something is broken, you have to fix it and all that. It's the same thing with marriage. If you don't fix it, you'll just have to park it like a car outside there, So you have to fix it. Any small thing, no issue, no challenge, no conflict is small in marriage, because if you leave it, it will fester on. It will become bigger and bigger, like a wound, that's not treated. So if you are really committed and you love the person that you've gotten married to, keep it going and continue making that love, rekindle it, keep it going. Try things, spice it up, as Peter said. You spice it up. If you don't spice it up, it will go. It will be dead. So do stuff together. Don't look into too much of being out there and doing stuff, because I know it's good to improve yourself. You want to have things happening. You want to buy this. You want to do that. And that, if that takes the center stage, then the marriage part will suffer. So balance things, learn to balance things, and marriage is actually the focus or the center of your family. Because if it breaks down, if you have divorce, they say that divorce leads to a lot of issues. One, you become isolated. Two, you'll be fighting your exes every time, for this and that property. And then you become one person. You only have one salary. Sometimes it's so difficult. It makes even your mental health become a problem for yourself. So it's going to have repercussions which will be, which will impact a lot of things in your life. So if you really know that, you'll be able to fight for that marriage. Fight for it like there's no other thing. Commitment, showing love to each other every time. Love your spouse. They get older, they get older, you get older. Some people, when the spouse get older, they say, oh, is this the lady I married? Because as they get older, they're not going to be like in their 20s when they were shining and looking so beautiful. And you got to know that you're aging, and that is okay, and keep it. They say this, some saying in Swahili, usiache mpachao kwa msala upitao, which means, if you have your old rag, don't throw it away because somebody has just lent you a mat, because he will come for it. Yeah. And you will have to go back to, or sometimes you go back to the rag, it's not even there, it's gone. So keep the marriage going, keep it going. Families in Australia that are together tend to have more positive things happening compared to families that are struggling to stay together, because there are more negative things happening there. One last thing, when people come here as well, there's always excitement of a Western lifestyle, which is anything goes. I talked about that before, and you get confused about that. That is where trouble begins, because anything goes. That's the devil. Actually, the devil mind of anything goes, because at the end of the day, you dig yourself into more issues and more issues and more issues, and eventually your marriage will fail. So love your wife, be faithful. That's the one last word I want to say. Faithful. Being faithful in this country is very hard for a lot of young people. But I always say, if we did it, anyone can do it. And you spice up your wife. Make sure your wife is always wearing nicely, dressing nicely. Send her out there to make hair. Spend money on her, and she will look good. You'll not be able to look elsewhere, because this is a special person that God has given you. Keep her as special as she is, and you'll be okay.
Amazing. Thank you.